YouTube, welcome to VBC Happy Hour. We're going to let people in now, and I will start the theme music. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our VBC Happy Hour for Monday, April 25th. I am Todd DiPastino. I'm the director of the Veterans Breakfast Club. This is our flagship online program. I think it's our flagship online program. And then we also have in-person programs where we have veterans come and share stories. And our featured veteran tonight is James Rosone, who is not with us yet. So I'm hoping that he comes because James is a fascinating person for a couple reasons for me. Number one, he was a human intelligence gatherer in Iraq during the surge in 2007. And my understanding is that's a euphemism for interrogator. So he was interrogating terrorists, Al-Qaeda, and also insurgents, I believe, in Iraq in 2007. I did not finish his memoir, which is called, I'm giving off an echo. I'm giving off an echo. Thanks for letting me know. Tell me if this is any better. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and let me know.
Yeah, Todd, I'm not getting an echo.
Okay.
I think you're fine, Todd.
You
Okay.
sound good to me.
Understand, Todd.
Okay, Larry. So it must be on your end, I'm guessing. All right. So hey, I'm hoping James Rosone shows up. If he does, we'll certainly talk to him because he was an interrogator in Iraq with the Air Force, and he's also a best-selling author. And when I mean best-selling, I don't know how many copies like a single book of his sells, but he writes 5 per year. He's a thriller. He's a genre author. He writes military thrillers, futuristic mostly, and I'm fascinated with how he writes with his partner, who's his wife. Both of them work on these books, and they are blockbuster books. I've seen advertisements for them. I've read parts of several of them. They are well written. They are fast moving, and they're also interesting because for example, he has a book, he has a series that speculates how World War III might erupt. And he plays out different scenarios. So he's somebody who knows his stuff and certainly knows a lot about what's happening in the world right now. So I'm hoping to get him to talk about his service, his return home, and his writing career. And I know that his writing career is very tightly connected to his service. But before we get to James, if he comes, and if he doesn't, I see plenty of interesting people here to talk with. So if he doesn't show up, that's fine. I do want to, however, make sure. Let me do. You could tell that Sean is off tonight, so I am flying solo, and that means that it can be a little tough every once in a while. Let's see here. I'm letting people in. Larry's coming back in. All right. Hey, Julia, while I get my act together here, which is to say 10, 15 minutes, just kidding. Julia Parsons, why don't you let people know what you have planned for Memorial Day? Because I think it's pretty darn exciting. Oh, I can't hear you, Julia. Could be those earphone issues that we have every once in a while. Mary Klepper, you're back. Good to see you. Jeez,
I'm back.
It's been a
I
while.
missed you all.
Yeah, so tax season over and you're with the world again, right?
I'm with the world again until I'm not with the world again.
Okay. That's
I'm gonna go work in Alaska for 5 weeks this summer.
Are you
I know.
giving tours?
Yes, and I've never been.
So can you tell people how do you how do you like brush up when you're going to a new place to give tours? You have to become an expert in it. You've never been there. What do? Just read a lot?
I read a lot, I research a lot, and I don't know how the tour directors did this 20 years ago before Google Maps. Because now I can at least get an itinerary and say, okay, well, this looks like the road we'll take. And I literally go out to Google Maps and I put the little man on, the little blue man, and I follow the road so I can see what's on either side and what looks interesting to talk about, and research the history of the area and the state or national park or whatever. It's a lot. People think it's fun when I'm out there enjoying myself, and I am, but they don't see the work that goes in ahead of time.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things where, right. The actual
like a book.
Right. The actual tour itself is the kind of payoff for all the, days and hours of work that you do. So how many people will be on your tour?
I don't know yet. I think the last I saw was 25 on one, and I'm not sure about the other one. So, but hopefully another rebound year. Had a good year last year in 2021. So hopefully this year as well.
Very good.
But I missed you guys the last 8 weeks.
I know. It's good to have you back. And you got your mug. You got your mug in the mail, right?
I did, and it was all in one piece. But I felt like an emperor the way my name came. It was like Mary Klepper Emperor.
Klepper. Yeah, we screwed up. Yeah, we screwed up your name.
I don't care.
Brad Washabaugh, you look like you're out in a different environment than we usually see you.
That's right, Todd. I'm out in the woods in North Carolina with my friend Dean Jackman, and we are camping out for 2 nights, but I just couldn't miss the VBC show. I went through all the technology challenges. I didn't climb a tree to stick my phone up in the air to get better reception, but I was thinking about it. But I'm real happy to be out in the woods and competing with mosquitoes and ticks, but I couldn't miss the show. Hello, everybody.
That's so great. Now, is it as a Marine? Is your buddy a Marine who you're camping with?
No, he's not a Marine. He's from Australia, Dean Jackman, and he likes military history. And a lot of my friends just have to be a little bit off because I do crazy things like come out in the woods and camp out. And he and I are going to go on a bicycle trip on my 68th birthday. We're going to pedal 68 miles to celebrate. And so my friends have to be a little bit crazy, but life is an adventure, right? And you got to go for it.
Dean, we hope you survive. And I would never want to go camping with a Marine. Never.
Well, I feel safe.
Yeah, that's right. Until something bad happens, and then I want a Marine there. That's right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I can tell you, getting out of the rack or sack, sleeping bag in the morning for an infantryman, I never recall it being this hard, But
well, at 68, it's a little harder when you're 28.
That's right. Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Brad. Julia, let's see if you could unmute yourself, and let's see if it works now. Hold on. I'll ask you to unmute. Here we go. I'll ask you to unmute, Julia. We hear you. We hear you, Julia.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, very good. Thank you so much for making the effort to come back on.
So
I did want people to know what you have planned for Memorial Day.
Well, I was sitting here a couple of weeks ago one Sunday afternoon, and PBS called and asked if I would like to be on the stage in their annual Memorial Day concert from Washington, D.C. So I thought about it and thought I couldn't do it. And then I decided maybe I could. So at this point, I'm hoping that I can. And they're counting on me. So I hope I can do it.
That is so great. Julia, have you ever watched that Memorial Day extravaganza from Washington?
Yes, I have. I've always watched it.
Yeah.
That's the one Gary Sinise does the host job on that.
It is a huge deal. I cannot wait to see you on that stage there. Who is going to...
Well, I don't say anything. They told me I would not say anything. I guess they'll do a video like they did for the Steelers. Right. And I'll just sit there and wave like Queen Elizabeth and
All your
So I
admirers.
don't know. So,
I
well,
love that. Do you need a chaperone by any chance?
no, I don't. But
Oh,
my
okay.
daughter's going to meet me there. She's coming down from Connecticut, and friends of mine are going to drive me to Washington. And that's where it stands so far. So
Oh,
I
that
think
is-
it's quite an honor, and I would love to do it. So I hope that my health holds up for that. So,
Oh, that is so great, Julia.
yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
America
it
needs
was.
to see you.
Yes.
America needs to see you.
Yes.
Whether they want to or not.
Girls
So-
rule.
Yeah, I don't know enough details yet. I must call and find out more details, but they're putting us all up in a hotel, and I don't know what hotel, but it sounds good to me. So
Oh, I love that. That is so great. Oh my gosh. That will be, well, we're going to be watching and looking for you that night for sure. And we'll let people know about it. So that's terrific. Thank you, Julia.
well, thank you.
Todd, you're gonna have to tape that for me. I'll be on a train to Utah with one of my tours. I'm gonna miss you, Julia. Here you're coming my
Aw.
way, and I won't see you.
Well, somebody will tape it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Hopefully, at least show your segment on one of the shows.
We'll post it. Yeah, we'll post it for sure. Hey, before we go
Okay.
any farther, Don Nemchek.
Yes, good evening. Well, Julia, congratulations. Perhaps you'll need to wear a Veterans Breakfast Club hat or a Veterans Breakfast Club, some kind of gear, so we can get the word out nationwide on PBS.
I was going to say, any chance I get, I will. I'll give us a plug.
That's great. Congratulations,
So-
Julia. It's well earned.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank
Don,
you.
you know what we call that, Don? We call that an endorsement deal.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah. If I could get an endorsement deal with Julia Parsons,
And how
That'd
much
be-
does that pay?
how much does that pay? Well, your people need to talk to my people, and they'll work out the gruesome details.
No.
Oh,
I'm
that
just
is-
honored to do it. I hope it works out all right.
That is so great. I want to let people know who may have come in late. James Rosone is our best-selling author. He's our guest tonight, and he is not here, as far as I know. And I'm on the lookout for any texts or emails from him. So if he shows, of course, we'll be talking with him. If he doesn't, we're going to talk as a group. We're going to have an open conversation tonight. So one or the other. Either way, I do want to acknowledge our sponsors. Our D&D Auto Salvage has re-upped for another quarter. We're very happy about that. They are a local metal recycling and auto salvage yard that has been here in the Pittsburgh area for 40 years. They started out as a small junkyard, scrapyard, and they're now a state-of-the-art junkyard, scrapyard with 2 locations, one in Lawrenceville and one in Tarentum. They really value customer service, and they cater especially to individuals and small companies engaging in demolition, manufacturing, construction, that kind of thing. You could check out their rates. They do it all, ferrous, non-ferrous. I've learned about that. And you can check out their rates at dndautosalvage.com. That's dndautosalvage.com. Tobacco-free Adagio Health is also with us here for the second quarter of the year. We're very grateful to them. They are an organization dedicated to reducing and eliminating tobacco use here in the United States. And they encourage people to quit. They have a popular quit line called 1-800-QUIT-NOW. 1-800-QUIT-NOW. You call that line, you talk to a counselor, and they help you quit. They were just recently featured on the Scuttlebutt podcast, talking with Don Nemchek. Don, right? You were just on the last Scuttlebutt, huh?
Yeah, that's correct, Todd. I really enjoyed working with our sponsor. She did a great job. Of course, her mission is very noble and very easy to work with. And I hope I added a little bit to it. I know Sean wanted some military jargon and some other things. I hope I added to the program from my experiences as a smoker while I was in the Navy post-service time. I quit, of course. But it was just great to be with our sponsors. I like to do more of that, of course. She was most gracious, and we opened up a line of communications. I invited her to contact me should she need another veteran to speak to her groups or another Zoom call podcast type of thing. And I think I opened up a door for her.
Very good. And I listened to part of the podcast, and you said something like that you learned to smoke kind of watching, I guess, your father's generation, your father, maybe his generation. And you said that they would always have the cigarette kind of out, dangling out of their mouth like Humphrey Bogart.
Like Humphrey Bogart, that's right. I didn't learn to smoke. I smoked back then. They'd always give you a puff and say, go ahead. And it was a man's thing. Here, go ahead, take a puff and take a swig of Iron City while you're sitting there waiting. And you became one of the guys at a very early age. I think that meant a lot to them because they were pretty hard charging guys who grew up tough during the Depression, fought in World War II, then came back and worked in a steel mill. So they had some salt to them. And they certainly taught me some life lessons very early on. Some of them good, and some of them probably not able to repeat, but I think I fared well for having that type of metal in me.
Yeah, and Rick Arisman, you say here that you smoked a pipe, and I've seen pictures of you in the Navy smoking a pipe. How did you acquire your pipe smoking habit, Rick?
I'm not really sure. I started on cigarettes, I think, when I was 12. And they were unfiltered. And then for some reason, I must have had friends that smoked a pipe. So I picked up that habit. But when I married Donna, I had to give it up.
Thank you, Donna.
And I don't miss it at all.
No. You started smoking at age 12.
Around there, yeah.
Okay.
Sneaking cigs from my dad, mother, or sister.
Has anybody here used tobacco or I'm sorry, chewing tobacco, or what's the stuff you like put in your next to your gum?
Snuff.
Snuff.
Yeah.
I had chewing tobacco when I was in 8th grade. Oh my gosh. It's like the universe like spun around. I threw up and I never touched it again.
I think it's so disgusting, but it smells good.
Yes.
I know that sounds strange, but because tobacco burning doesn't, but tobacco that's not burning is one of the best smells on earth, like curing in a barn or whatever. Isn't that weird?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
So I'll tell you a funny story. So you guys are, of course, in your steel mill area. I am too. I worked at Bethlehem Steel for 5 years, and I used to help run the superintendent's table. And this one superintendent, he always had his spit bottle, and so they were having lunch one day and he spit out his chew, and the guy next to him with his left hand went to pick up his thing of Coke. And it wasn't Coke.
No.
Yeah. You talk
Ugh.
about the head spin. I think
Oh,
can you imagine? I mean, it'd be bad enough it's your own spit, but it was somebody else's.
I can't. Chad Riddle.
Hey, Todd, I smoked for about 7 years in high school, college, and then going into the Navy. And I smoked cigars, cigarettes, and pipes. I never did the chew. I could not take that. I could not stand it, just like you.
Why did you quit?
I remember when we'd get out to sea and it was rough, there was one officer, we didn't really get along well, so I would pull out the biggest smelly cigar I could find. And he immediately was heaving over the side.
Why did you quit, Chad?
I was getting up for a mid-watch. All you Navy guys know what a mid-watch was. That's the 12 to 4.
Okay.
And I reached into my desk in the stateroom and I was putting them in my uniform pocket. Then I just said, I threw them back in. I never touched a cigarette again or any tobacco. Except like one that. Cigar when my daughter was born.
Yeah. How about that?
I never touched it. And later on, as a nurse, I was working in Butler County with a physician, and I related that story. And he said he always worked with drug and alcohol problems and tobacco. And he suggested that I didn't have a addictive personality. There is such a thing.
Right.
And I said, because my dad couldn't quit.
He couldn't do it.
Nope. He tried, but he couldn't do it.
Larry Woods.
Started smoking when I was in high school and did chew tobacco for a little bit, but I did swallow one time and decided that was not a good thing. So I quit rather quickly. But when I came back from Vietnam, I was a desk sergeant in security. And I would be in a locked room, electronically locked, with the radios and maps and everything else. And the only other person that would be in there would be my duty sergeant. And when he was out patrolling, I was in there by myself. And I realized that I had promised myself that if I came back from Vietnam in one piece, I was going to quit. And this was in December, and I came home in October, and I realized it had been 2 months and I hadn't kept my promise. So I crumpled up what I had left, threw them away, and that was 50 plus years ago. And I was a pack and a half a day smoker.
A pack and a half a day.
Mhm.
And you really did say, if I make it home, I will quit. Kind of a pact with yourself, or a pact with.
Yeah, they
God.
were telling us that it wasn't good for you. And I thought, well, if I get home, I'll quit. You know how you make promises to yourself that you never keep. But that's one that I did. So I quit smoking, and that was, and the other reason I think is when I came back and I was in the airport flying back to Dover, I saw that cigarettes were at 50 cents a pack, and we were paying no tax on it. And I think it was in Vietnam, I think they were 11 cents a pack. And when I saw they were 50 cents a pack, I thought that's too expensive.
Yeah.
And now I look at what they cost, and I said, look at the money I saved.
Could you imagine now? Yeah, Don Nemchek.
Larry,
Todd, you were talking about chewing tobacco. A lot of us, when we played baseball, Pony League, Little League, we always want to emulate a lot of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And Bill Mazeroski was well known for having a big chew on the side of his mouth. In addition to our dads chewed sometimes or whatever, we played on baseball fields that were all dirt. There was no grass. There was no manicured surface like in Mount Lebanon that you guys had.
Here we go. Here we go.
They used Krugerrands as bases, as I understand it, in Mount Lebanon.
That's right.
But, we just had a dusty old field, and they would oil it down sometimes where they didn't. So they were, we were always told, why don't you take a little chew and that'll keep the dust down, okay? So we had that motivation to chew to keep the dust down and then look like Bill Mazeroski or someone else. And we always wanted to be the tough guys too. Tough guys chewed and did those types of things. So when we were young, we had influences that were not around as they are today. And
Yes.
maybe that's a good thing, but those were some of the reasons why we chewed. Going back to the fact that McKeesport was almost known as the snuff capital of the world. Everybody would buy the cans of Copenhagen or Skoal. Then they would no longer just buy the cans. They would buy a whole roll, like 10 cans in a roll, and take it with them. Chewing was very, very, very common back then. I got away from it until I realized that if I was dating a girl and I had a chew in, then second base was not going to be my option.
Mark Spiradigliosi, how are you? You quit cold turkey 1984?
It was easy to quit up until that point, Todd. I quit 3 times a week. It was just staying. It was staying quit that was the biggest problem. But believe it or not, I went to a doggone hypnotist, and I said to Linda as I walked in, "This guy's never going to get me to quit smoking. I don't know what it is." But I went in there, and $40 later, I walked out, and I haven't smoked anything since October of 1984.
So it truly worked.
Oh,
It worked for me, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How interesting.
It worked for my friend too.
Really?
Yeah, hypnotist. Yeah.
How neat.
Did you
Of
ever
course, I
find
go
out
to
what
the
they told
bathroom in
you?
the corner at the house now, but Linda gets over that pretty quickly.
Did they ever find out what they told you in the hypnosis session?
Well, to tell you the very truth, I sat there through this whole thing. I felt like I was not hypnotized at all. And I had actually gone, Linda, my wife's sister, was with us. And the hypnotist was very monotonal. He talks like, there was never an inflection in his voice. And I thought, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this guy is not hypnotizing me. And he said, do either of you have to go to the bathroom? And suddenly I had to pee so bad I couldn't stand it. So I'm going to guess that because I didn't have that urge. And maybe that was the way that he checked to see if we were in fact hypnotized. I don't know. But it worked.
Morrow. It worked. Jack Morrow, Marine, World War II Marine. You a smoker?
Yes, I was quite a smoker. I smoked for about 40 years. And I stopped smoking the very day I had my open heart surgery in 1981. I handed my pipe and tobacco to my wife and says, that's it. And to this day, I have not spoken. But the crazy thing is, I've had dreams where I was smoking. And I'm saying to myself, Jack, when did you start smoking again?
And Jack is going to be one of our featured guests on Thursday night for our program on the Battle of Okinawa, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Let me finish up here with tobacco-free Adagio Health, because I do want to direct people to the website if they're interested in quitting or directing people to somebody that could help somebody quit. You could go to tobaccofree.adagiohealth.com or org. I'm sorry, tobaccofree.adagiohealth.org. Anybody who wants a magazine can get one. We do have a few copies left. I will put them in the mail to you. All we need is your address. If you don't get this at home, it's because we don't have your address. All you do is need to call me or email me with your address. You could email me at todd@veteransbreakfastclub.org. That's todd@veteransbreakfastclub.org, and we will send you our most recent copy of our magazine. I'm putting our next issue, our summer issue, together as we speak right now. Our next program will be online, and it will be Thursday night, an unusual Thursday night program. We had to switch the date. It was originally scheduled for tomorrow night. It is now going to be Thursday, April 28th. And the conversation, which will be led by Glenn Flickinger, the host of Greatest Generation Live, will be about the World War II Battle of Okinawa, the last and one of the biggest battles of World War II, certainly that the U.S. was involved with in the Pacific. We have quite a lineup. Jack Morrow will be with us, a Marine who's with us tonight, served in Okinawa, as well as Neil McCallum, another Marine who served on Okinawa. And we also, many of you will remember the name Eugene Sledge, E.B. Sledge, who wrote a couple great books on his Marine Corps service. We're going to have his son, Henry Sledge, who's going to be with us to talk about the battle. He's done a lot of research about his father's service. Laura Lacey, who's a United States Marine Corps historian. She is going to be with us, as well as Al Dawson, who is a novelist and who has written a book based on the Battle of Okinawa. So it's going to be quite a lineup. That's Thursday night at 7 p.m. Hope you can join us. Our next in-person event is going to be in Penn Hill section of Pittsburgh, where Brad Washabaugh is from. We're going to have one right there on Friday, May 6th at the Comfort Inn on Rhode Island Road in Penn Hills, because at 8:30, would love to have you join us. Anybody, it's always a wonderful event. Hey, I want to invite George Mulvaney, who's with us here. I want to make sure that he is still with us. I saw that he was in the waiting room. George, if you want to unmute yourself, if you want to, George, are you with us?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you.
Hey, how are you doing, George? If you could turn on your camera, great. If not, that's fine too.
I'm trying to figure out this phone here since you've started. I'm of age. I'm a senior citizen, so navigate me here if you want to, but I could turn it on somewhere. I'm hitting my name under there. I see the mute, the start video, participants, and more. So,
I think you want the start video.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Start video. We want to see your handsome Marine Corps mug. There you go. How you doing? Good to see you, George.
I woke up this morning. There you go.
Very good. You can see George is wearing his red Marine Corps shirt, and George is joining us from Chicagoland, where he is the commander of the American Legion Post, or Franklin Park Post 974 of the American Legion. And George, somehow you got connected to me by email, and I learned about this wonderful event that you have coming up, and I'm going to share my screen. And I was so interested in it because I think it's such a great idea. You're holding a special event on April 30th, which this year falls on Saturday. This is such an important date for so many of our Vietnam veterans who are all home by this date, April 30th, 1975. But I think most Vietnam veterans will remember the Fall of Saigon. Can you tell us what you're doing on that day?
Well, interesting that it did fall on April 30th, and it's this Saturday. 47 years ago, as everybody knows, that's when we officially ended the war. Everybody just recently celebrated March 29th 1973 when all the combat forces were supposed to be pulled out. But obviously, 2 years later, we were still in Vietnam, and yeah, there were still casualties happening. Interesting enough, the morning before, April 29th, there were the last two casualties. One of them was Corporal Charles McMahon. The second one, Lance Corporal Darwin Judge. The last two official casualties of the Vietnam War. And what we do for them is honor not only them, but we use them, Marines. They're part of the Marine Security Guard unit from Saigon. They were ordered to go to the Air Force Base and guard the personnel, the civilian personnel that were family members of the embassy personnel there, as they were actually bivouacking out of the C-130s, C-141s out there at the Air Force Base. And they were supposed to be guarding the defense line. And obviously an RPG came overhead, and actually that was their time. So it's not only for them, it's for all the Vietnam veterans that have come and gone. It's for Army soldiers, Navy sailors, Air Force, Marine Corps. It's for everybody. And it's not only just for them. The Marine Corps is going to be there, my brothers in arms. We're going to do an honor salute, 21 gun salute. We're also going to do a post everlasting, which is an American Legion event where we take all the names. And if you have any names, forward them to me via email, and we will read off the names, put them into a bucket. Actually, it's a helmet, and we'll light them on fire. We're going to have the Vietnamese community out there in their customary dresses for all you Vietnam veterans who remember what the women were wearing at the time, but they always come out and enjoy to share their moments with the Vietnam veterans. There's a good picture of them right there in their dress. Thank you very much for sharing that part. And yeah, you see on the right-hand side, those are the some of them that were able to reload to Chicago. They were called the Boat People back in the 1970s. They came in, and that was the original building that they became and had a community center. But yeah, we're going to move this around. It's been moved around for a while. We were lucky enough to have the Department of Defense come up with a few dollars and cents back in 2016. And they said, hey, why don't we sponsor a wall, a Vietnam Wall? It's the 80% replica. And where do we send it? And somebody came up with this great idea. Let's send it to Chicago. You know, those guys have a big Vietnamese community. So what we had done in 2016 is we received the wall. When they asked me, the Department of Defense asked me, where do you want to put it? I said, why don't we put it in Little Saigon, which is we call a community here with the Vietnamese. And they said, what? Where's that at? So I said, well, bring the wall in and we'll show you. And they came out with everything. Department of Defense, and lucky enough, we had the chairman of the chief Joint Chief Staff was General Dunford at the time. So he actually helped. So like I said, for all our brothers and sisters in arms back in the Vietnam War, you know, we had the WACs, the Women Air Force. We had everybody, all the women were there as well. And like I said, this is a moment for all Vietnam veterans. And in 3 years' time, in 2025, I think they're going to have the 50th anniversary. It's called a commemoration, where the taxpayers' money will actually, for all the major cities, will have some celebration. But I think it's too late in life to honor, you know, our Vietnam veterans, our brothers, our sisters. We should have actually been doing this every single year, in my opinion. And like I said, I'm a post-Vietnam era. I actually signed up as the Vietnam War was ending, so I didn't go to Vietnam. I'm a Cold War veteran. But like I said, this is for them. This is for everybody. And then lastly, in July 27th, we also do the Korean War veterans, which is called America's Forgotten War. And they too, like the Vietnam veterans, came home from the plane, the buses and everything, looked around, nobody there to greet them, just like the Vietnam veterans. And we jokingly say to the Vietnam veterans, at least you had these people come out and, you know, and punch you, you know, because of the hostilities, that they were angered and everything because of the war. But yet the Korean War veterans didn't have that. You know, they came home and they looked left, they looked right. There's no flags, there's no marching bands. But the Vietnam veterans, you know, they came in and, you know, they were fighting a war all in itself when they came here to back to the United States. We call it stateside. So it's our honor to do this for them and our Marine brothers and sisters, the Air Force, the Navy. Everybody's welcome. It's just not one branch of military service, it's all of them. So thank you for putting this out, and I appreciate everybody. And I just want to say thank you for your time.
Yeah, George, absolutely. And we want to encourage anybody who's in the Chicagoland area on Saturday, April 30th at 11:30. Just go to do you have to call, make a reservation, or do you just show up?
That's negative. Just show up, sir.
Oh, see, you Marines, you're always saying sir. I'm not a vet, George.
Well, we work for a living. We work
That's
for a
true.
living.
I do not work for a living. So you could just show up, the Franklin Park Post 974. That is just south of O'Hare Airport, correct?
That is correct. Right off of Manheim Road, just a little south, not even probably a mile and a half at most.
My daughter lives in Chicago. We, the Veterans Breakfast Club, we have a relationship with the Pritzker Military Museum and Library, and we are planning to do an event somewhere in Chicago in October. So I hope I'll see you there, either as we're planning the event or maybe at the event itself. I will definitely want to be in touch with you, George.
Oh, definitely. We could broadcast it out here and let all the American Legions, VFWs, DAVs, and all the posts and organizations and the Asian community as well to come out there.
Well, that's great.
We know where it's at.
I know where it's at, and it'd be it'd be great to have you on again anytime with some of your Postmates. Hey, Larry Woods, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. As a result of Todd, I started doing what's called an ambassador program for the History Center, and it's a program on Vietnam, and it was based on the exhibit that we had down at the History Center, and it covers the war from 75 all the way from the beginning of 1945. So it covers the whole time frame. And the one thing that I did some research on, it's really been, I call it the last battle, which is an incident that occurred after the fall of Saigon. And Todd, you're probably aware of it. It was a Khmer Rouge boat that seized a merchant ship, the Margays. They mounted a rescue mission, and the Marines had raw recruits. All of the seasoned Marines from Vietnam had already been sent home, and the only ones that were left in country were a few grizzled vets and mostly Green Marines. They ended up sending them. There were 8 helicopters and 200 Marines that landed. They ended up having a total disaster. There were over 41 injuries, including 10 Marines, 2 Navy, and an Air Force crewman who were killed. They then had 3 Marines that were still on the island. They sent a helicopter from Utapao in Thailand with security police who were going to try to rescue. That helicopter crashed and they all perished. And they found out afterwards that the 3 Marines that were on the island that the Marines said that didn't survive lasted an extra 3 days and were captured by the Khmer Rouge and killed. So technically they weren't part of Vietnam, but they were really they were there at that time period. It just so happens that the fall of Saigon had happened a few days before, because this was in May of 75, May the 12th of 75. So I just mention it because I don't know that a lot of folks are aware of that, but it was one of those, we didn't get it right throughout the war and we didn't get it right when we ended it. So
are there names on the wall, Larry? No, because
I don't believe they are, because it came after the fall. I'll have to do some more research to see if they are, but I don't think they are. I think the last ones were the ones that we were just talking about.
Right.
Do you have a name? I could look it up on the app real quick.
I don't have a name of any of the.
It was called the Mayaguez incident.
Right.
The name of the ship was the Mayaguez.
That was
referred to as an incident.
Yeah, that was the merchant marine ship, and then the rescue is where the Americans, because the Mayaguez, they were already released. So when the rescue took place, there was no need for the rescue because the Mayaguez was already released, which was again just the total kind of I'll just use the acronym, the FUBAR that went on then. So.
Greg Yost, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'm looking into this. I was going to say it is the Maya Gaz. I was looking into it in the background. Something tells me those names might be on the wall. In fact, okay, I have the Wikipedia up right now, if we can trust that. Are the last names on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So yes, the three Marines are the last three names on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
Okay,
so they are considered, casualties of the Vietnam War.
And you know, Greg, thank you for that. I think Ben Wright told me that not too long ago, because we put this Mayaguez, the SS Mayaguez incident as a topic that we want to cover here on our programs. And I think Ben is the one who let me know that they are officially considered casualties of the Vietnam War, I believe.
And by the way, Todd, I'm doing a presentation at your favorite location down in Friendship Village at the end of May. So if you want to come down and critique my presentation and make fun of me, you're more than welcome to come.
Oh, I will heckle. So what is the presentation on?
It's Vietnam. It's the ambassador presentation, Vietnam, 1945 to 75.
That is so great.
They love you down there. They think you walk on water.
Can I suggest your name as a speaker to other historical societies, Larry?
Sure. I think they probably should go through the History Center, but I'm up for it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Larry. George Mulvaney.
Larry, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, that is part of our program too, but we don't announce it because that happened within the 2 weeks afterwards, like you said, the Fall of Saigon. And yeah, we do bring that up on the program and to honor those Marines as well. And the other incident that's not brought up is what happened 2 weeks prior to that is the airlift out of Phnom Penh, Cambodia, which is not talked about as well. So like I said, these things that we group together, we call it the Fall of Saigon because of the Vietnam War, but we were in Cambodia at the same time 2 weeks prior. We had a large airlift there as well. And then, like you said, the Marquez, the ship there, the Merchant Marine ship, that doesn't get any exposure at all. But yes, we do honor them as well. So I just want to let you know, thank you so very much for bringing that up.
Yeah, that was also the largest group of security police that were killed during the conflict, and they died in the helicopter trying to accomplish a rescue.
Well, sadly enough, the department has the surveyors going out, still looking for remains and everything.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding that for the Marquez there, the Merchant Marine ship, is they put a casino and a hotel and casino over the bodies of the forgotten Marines over there. So that was kind of sad as well.
Todd, when you do your program about that incident, as well as the Iranian hostage rescue mission that didn't work, were sort of both were big reasons why the U.S. turned into a specialized special forces. Basically, I mean, there were obviously Green Berets, there's Rangers, they've been for forever, but they turned that into sort of a more or less permanent preparations in their training 24/7, 365 for strange things like that. Those two incidents had a lot to do with rather than just using regular ordinary Marines, not that there's anything wrong with that, but they certainly aren't trained to sort of just hop on a helicopter at 3:30 in the morning and use GPS and find some strange place in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. We did do a program on the Iranian hostage rescue attempt, Operation Eagle Claw. Eagle Claw, I think it was called, and we absolutely should do that again also. So you're saying, Greg, that these failed rescue attempts were part of what inspired an expansion of special forces that could attempt extractions like this.
Exactly. You don't just take the nearest Marine or Army unit. You sort of have these special people ready to go around the world, on 12-hour notice, get them halfway around the world. I think that had a lot to do with it. Someone in the chat talks about Desert One, Eagle Claw, the Iranian thing. Both of those were sort of combined. Hey, wait, we just can't put these together on the fly. We have to sort of be more or less permanently ready for something like that.
Right.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah.
command. But and the history is right. There's a 11 they call it. And part of the problem was the funding for units like that was just trickle down, special forces, whatnot. But United States Special Operations Command was formed after those incidents to get their own funding and to get their own ability to develop weapons, tactics, and procedures to respond to crises like that. So it's come a long way, and of course now USSOCOM is integrated with Marine forces of all the services are represented in USSOCOM. So we've learned a lot. I wanted to ask you, any idea about ever doing a show on USS Liberty?
That came up recently. The USS Liberty. We certainly could do a program on the Liberty.
Because that was another spy ship that was attacked not by North Korea but by Israel and strafed a U.S. Navy ship for a good over an hour, several hours, and there was a number of casualties on that. And that's a story that probably needs to be told at some point too.
Yeah,
it's forgotten by a lot of folks.
I agree, and that's a controversial one because Israel says it was an accident. The U.S. accepted that explanation. There's some conspiracy theories that it wasn't an accident, but yeah, we that's another one to have on the list. I'm going to go from one colonel to another. Hughes Turner is with us, Army Colonel. You put in the chat here. Hello, Hughes. First of all,
good evening.
How are you?
Hey, hanging in there.
Good. You put here in the chat that it helped lead to Delta Force.
Yeah, I think other people jumped on. I mean, the whole special ops community underwent a transformation, or actually the creation thereafter. And so we have a much more sophisticated force packages now.
Were you in the military for Eagle Claw or not?
I had just reported to my officer basic at Fort Benning the last week of April in 1975, which was the Fall of Saigon.
Okay. So you were there.
Brand new lieutenant.
Right. I was going to ask you about what the toughest training that you've ever received was. Because I've heard officer basic is very hard, advanced individual training very hard. What of all the training that you did, because you must have done a lot of training over the course of your very long career, what was the most demanding and difficult?
Probably most challenging for a lot of us, at least individual soldiers, Ranger School.
Ranger School. Ew, how long is that?
At the time I went, it was 8 weeks.
What's the attrition rate like? How many people drop out?
Let me think. I think we wind up keeping 1/3 of our class.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. Not bad. It's easy for me to say. Hey, Mark Spiradigliosi, if you see Chule, say hi to him for me. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. You said he has an event coming up, huh?
Yes, we have it here in Lancaster. It's at our Central Park in downtown Lancaster. They call it Black Monday. It is it is the absolute fall of Saigon. We have a large Vietnamese population here because of our Mennonite population, and a lot of the boat people were brought into Lancaster County. So we have an extremely large Vietnamese population here. We're going to gather in the park. I'm a member of a group called the Red Rose Honor Guard, which is a guard that does services at veterans' funerals. And we're going to do a flag folding ceremony and taps and all of that at there. And anybody that's within a distance of here, please come down. I mean, they generally get 100 or 150 people there, is what Shuli said. I was with them last night. So,
wow.
So we get a lot of people.
I'm going to be seeing you pretty soon, Mark.
Yes.
I'm going to be meeting you in person. I'm going to be in Lancaster, and I'll be giving a talk there.
Yes, we're excited. The whole retirement facility here is agog with Todd coming down to see us.
don't build up the expectations too much, but I really look forward to meeting you and meeting the other vets in the Lancaster area.
When and what is this talk, Todd? Because I'm not that far from Lancaster.
Well, yeah, there's a breakfast every third Saturday at the Bird in Hand restaurant.
Oh, I love Bird in Hand.
Yeah, Bird in Hand restaurant. They have a big veterans breakfast there, and they've been having it for a few years. And Bill Terry, who runs it, a Navy vet, has been to Pittsburgh and been to our breakfast and see how we do it. And he runs his own there. So I'm going to go to pay a visit at their breakfast that morning. And then I'm going to go to the community where Mark lives in Lancaster and give a talk then that evening. I think it's at 7 p.m., Mark?
Yes, Lancaster. You got to be very careful. Don't say Lancaster like you just did.
Right.
So
Sorry.
hold on. I don't say Lancaster.
You say it's Lancaster.
Lancaster. Lancaster.
Yeah.
Lancaster.
And Mary Klepper, this is an open invitation to come to Woodcrest Villa anytime you want to sit down and watch Todd with us.
Yeah. What is that? May 21st?
May 21st.
Yes.
May 21st.
I will be in Arches, I think. All right. Bummer.
Well, good. I do look forward to that. I want to, here's a quiz for you, and this is for Mary, our trivia expert, and for everybody else. Okay, today is April 25th. What important event happened during World War II on April 25th, 1945? Don't look at your devices.
I got it, Todd.
Oh, of course, Scott Masters has it. This is perfect.
No
Tell
idea.
him, Scott. Tell him.
And I sent you a picture at the top of the show that pertains to this. But it's Elba Day, the day that the Russians and the Americans met in Germany at the very end of the war. And it just so happens last week, my class Zoomed with an American veteran who was there, who shared his memories. Julia Parsons actually attended that class, and she was part of the audience. So I sent you the picture, I think, right at the top of the show, and you'll see Julia right in there.
Okay, I'm gonna share the picture, but I want to show people here the map. Here's where they met at Torgau. I think it was members of the 69th Infantry Division on the American side, maybe Ukrainian soldiers on the Soviet side, met right here at the shore of the Elbe River. And that was a big celebratory event, the meeting of the two allies, one from the east, one from the west, dividing Germany and giving Hitler his maybe 5 days notice. His life would end 5 days later. So I'm gonna share what you just sent me so that you could tell us about this veteran. You had him on your program?
Yeah, his name is Frank Cohn, and he's got an amazing story. His family is originally from Germany. They're Jewish, and they got out just a week before Kristallnacht in 1938. So he settled in New York and grew up there, turned 18 during the war. He was listed as an enemy alien at first, but they drafted him anyway. And when they discovered he spoke German, he became part of intelligence corps. And by the time he got to the front, the Battle of the Bulge was going on, and it was his job to interrogate German prisoners and to try to find war criminals.
Oh my. And what was that experience like for him, being a Jewish kid who was from Germany originally, going back to liberate the country?
First of all, he tells the story amazingly well. He's 96 years old. He's in incredible health. His memory is just remarkable. He made a point at the end. I asked him if he considered himself more a survivor or a veteran, and he very proudly said that he considers himself a liberator. And he got the chance to go back and fight. He did lose an awful lot of family in the Holocaust, and he listed them name by name, and it was something that for him was clearly an important mission. And my students, they were absolutely blown away by him. It really was a great class.
Your students, that I'm looking at their pictures here, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at their pictures, and I'll share that again. They must, I get the sense, you're such a wonderful teacher and you've been doing this so long. You clearly impress upon them how fortunate they are to be able to have this time with people who lived through such key epics in our history.
Yeah, and this is a really good class. This was my grade 12 class. You can see it's a pretty small group. I think they were mostly there, so there's about 15 of them. But most of these students I've had 3 years in a row now. So I had them in grade 10 Canadian history, grade 11 American history, and this is world history. So we did most of the World War II unit this year through oral history interviews. And last week we happened to do 3 of them, 2 with American vets via Zoom and another one with a Holocaust survivor from Yugoslavia. So they understand it. They're able to put it in context and they really do enjoy it.
And they're always going to remember it.
Yeah.
You know, when they're as old as Julia, older than we are now, you and I, Scott, they're going to remember, they're going to be telling their children, grandchildren, great grandchildren about how they talked with World War II veterans. And I think that's just a beautiful, wonderful thing, that kind of chain of memory that gets passed down.
Yeah,
How
it's
terrific.
My pleasure and my honor. I love doing it as well.
I know you do. Here is one of the most famous pictures from Elb Day. The meeting of this man on the left, this William Robertson, this lieutenant on the left here, this American, he truly was one of the first, I think not the first, but one of the first to meet with Soviet soldiers. This became, I think, an official photo released by the US government. And I love to share this, the follow-up many years later, the same 2 men meeting and shaking hands in the same way, with the photo right between them. I think that's just tremendous. And you know, the picture took, in all these pictures here, these are other pictures of the meeting of the Soviets and American soldiers at the Elbe, you know, that take on this is such a moment in time, of course, because it wouldn't be too long after this that the Cold War would begin and that these 2 erstwhile allies would become enemies. But here they are for the moment, arm in arm, you know, kind of celebrating not the end of the war, but certainly the near end of the war. Did your veteran talk about how much vodka they drank?
He mentioned that he was only about 19 years old at the time this was happening, and he said he had 1 shot of vodka. He had never really had anything to drink before, and he said he very quickly learned after 1 shot that he wasn't going to have any more.
Yeah. I mean, the stories that the veterans who we used to have come to Veterans Breakfast Club 10 years ago, who had met Russian soldiers or Soviet soldiers, all say the same thing. Like, the vodka was out of control. There was so much of it, so much drinking. You know, if you didn't drink it, it seemed like you were offending the Soviets, and that it was tough to choke down. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I want to thank you for all the people you've introduced me to. And, you know, there's quite a number of people in this club, and people like Caleb, who is in the audience tonight, have been really good about connecting me with different veterans as well.
Caleb, Caleb's with us. Let's say, and I think Henry Shepke is on with us too. Caleb, unmute yourself, please, if you're not busy doing something else. Just want to say hello if you can. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can, we'd love to have you say hello. And
hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing, Caleb? Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
You know, it's so, I've got to say, it always warms my heart to see your name here when you come into the Zoom room, and Henry's name, of course, and Connor Ritchie, of course, and even, you know, Scott Masters, people who, like me, aren't veterans, but who love being part of this community and love hearing the stories and asking questions. What is it that interests you so much about veterans and their stories? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to a lot of my family serving, and then having an interest in history. I know in 2015, I decided, you know, this would be kind of a cool project to be able to have a chance to write to veterans, you know, not only get their autograph and tell their stories, but just to be able to thank them, you know, and just tell about myself and why I'm doing it. So I think it's just really cool, because otherwise you may not never meet them, you know, in person or anything like that, but you can correspond to them through letters or on a phone call or something, or on this program. So.
And you have an autograph collection that is, you know, all told, including veterans, but also non-veterans. How large is your autograph collection?
Of everything, it's definitely over 10,000 autographs now.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
sports, celebrities, World War II veterans, you name it.
Oh my gosh. And you do not sell any of them.
No, I still got them all.
You still have them all.
Yep.
I see a sign on your wall there. It says, I used to be a millionaire until my mom threw out all my baseball cards.
Yeah.
That's a great one. And there's something, I guess the word I'm searching for is quaint. But I think I'm looking for something a little warmer than quaint about collecting autographs, because in our digital age, where people never put pen to paper for anything, it's special to have something that somebody actually wrote down, and you could save that as a memento.
Yeah, I think that'd be it's kind of like a cool thing to, hopefully someday when I have a family of my own, I can share that, hey, I got the right so-and-so, and this is what they wrote me back. They wrote me back a letter, something like that. I think that's really cool to keep. It's been a lot of fun too, going through some of my old family stuff, finding letters from my grandma, my great, grandparents, uncles that served, going all the way back to the Civil War. So that's always a really cool thing to keep on and hold on to that family history and history of me. So.
Yeah, history of you. That's right. That's like where we came from. Why, what are we here for? So you're like the family historian in your family, I guess, huh?
Yeah, me and my mom. Yeah.
That's so great. Caleb, thank you for joining us. I really always I always mean to say it when I see you, but it warms my heart that somebody like you is joining us, as with Henry Shepke. Michael Watton, I want to say hi to you just because I've known you for a couple years on these Zoom programs, but I got to meet you briefly on March 29th, Vietnam Veterans Day at Soldiers and Sailors Hall. And then I got to see you again last Tuesday in Bethel Park for our breakfast. How did you like the breakfast?
I liked it a lot. It's the first time I was able to meet you in person. I appreciate it. No, this is actually the second time. I was there for the Soldiers and Sailors thing also.
Right. So my question to you, Michael, or one of the reasons I'm putting you on the spot here is because I looked over to you last Tuesday at the breakfast, and I thought, I wonder what he would think if I walked over to him, asked him to stood up, and I gave him the microphone. So if you come to another breakfast, how would you feel? Like in Penn Hill, say, let's say you come on May 6th. If I walked over to you and gave you the microphone and said, hey, tell us a little bit about your service. Oh, I can't hear you.
I'd be happy to do it.
You'd be happy to do it. Okay, good. Just want to make sure you'd be happy to do it and that I'm all right. Well, thanks. Thanks, Michael. Well, it looks like James Rosone is not going to be joining us tonight. And that is a shame because he is a best-selling author. He's an Air Force veteran. I'm going to have to schedule him to come another time and share his story, and also share his, I know that Ken Kazak joined, several people, probably Greg Yost, Ken Kazak joined us because they're so curious about writers and the writing process. And I've never talked to a writer who writes as much as James Rosone writes. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Let me just open it up. If anybody has anything they want to share, a story they want to tell, an announcement they want to make. I do have an announcement. I'm trying to gather some information about it. Mark Spiridigliosi.
I just want to go back to the subject of Scott and his group. I did an oral history via the Veterans Breakfast Club through Scott. And let me tell you that it was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had in my entire life. The man is a consummate professional that does it exactly in a way that brings out things. Scott, you brought out things from my memory that I didn't know I could bring back. And believe me, it was a worthwhile recording and cleansing situation. I just would be remiss not to say that tonight.
Thank you for that, Mark. And we'll look forward to hosting you in class. Todd, you'll be happy to know that I've arranged a class in mid-May with Mark and one of the donut dollies, Sam Christie, are going to be speaking to that same grade 12 class that you saw in the picture there before.
That is so great. Oh, is that great? What lucky kids. Brad Washaball.
Good evening. So today is Anzac Day, Todd. And
Yes.
my friend Dean is from Australia, and I thought I'd put him on the spot and have him talk about Anzac Day.
Come on, Dean. Let's hit us with Anzac Day.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. It's Brad put me onto the Breakfast Club, and I've watched a few of them now. So yeah, Anzac Day. Anzac stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, but this is a day in Australia and New Zealand that's a national holiday. It's a lot like, I guess, Veterans Day in some ways, but this is to celebrate and commemorate anyone who served in any of the armed forces, not just the original Anzacs. The Anzacs first sort of got on the stage in the Gallipoli campaign. So April the 25th happens to be the day of that landing. That campaign was spearheaded or designed by Winston Churchill, and it was a bit of a failure. But apparently he learned a lot of lessons from it. And eventually, after some time, and I can't quote the duration of that campaign, but it was withdrawal. And of course, Australian and New Zealand's, this was one of their first opportunities to be on the world stage and represent the Commonwealth in the armed forces. So they combined both Australia and New Zealand into an Army Corps. So yeah. How about that? Straight from Australian. We couldn't beat that. Thank you, Dean.
Oh, Dean, thank you so much. That is so cool. You know, I want to, and I don't want to get off the topic of Anzac Day, but I do want to mention that one of the big events I would like to have for VBC Happy Hour coming up in the next few months, I would love to have Australian veterans of the Vietnam War come on.
Just going to ask about that. That would be terrific. Oh my gosh, you stole it right out of my head. I hope you can pull this off. That would be great.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I think. That would be so cool.
I think Australia prides itself in being one of the few nations that pretty much has always supported America, the US, in lots of armed conflicts, including the Korean War, Vietnam, when a lot of other allies didn't really front up, so to speak. Not the best word, but so yeah. I know a few veterans, and they had, I know they talk fondly about the Americans that they met over in Vietnam. So I don't know anyone that could join a call though. But.
Well, I'm going to contact, I guess, the Vietnam Veterans of Australia Association and go from there. And I'd love to have South Korean veterans of the Vietnam War also on. They had quite the reputation, I know, in Vietnam, and there were a lot of them who served during the Vietnam War. So, and hopefully some could speak English and come on our program. It would be terrific. That would be so cool. Greg Yost, did you want to say something else about Anzac Day? Greg Yost, are you still with us?
I thought I was. No, I am.
Okay.
Yes. No, it was the Vietnam thing. I had wanted to maybe ask, is there a controversy to this day? Does Australia treat its Vietnam veterans better than the United States treated its? That was maybe the question that I really wanted to ask.
That is a great question. No, I think that is a key question. Maybe Dean can answer that. Were Vietnam veterans in Australia treated better when they returned than U.S. veterans in Vietnam?
Well, my impression is that they are treated respectfully, and it was something that Australia at the time believed in. The Australian Prime Minister went across to see Lyndon Johnson and came back with the slogan "All the way with LBJ." Meaning that we're going into Vietnam. That's pretty much the first thing he said when he got off the plane. But yeah, there'll be a lot of Vietnam veterans today, or being commemorated and praised as part of Vietnam. I don't, I've never seen. Yeah, it's always been with praise.
Okay.
From what I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Larry Woods.
Yeah, one other, just a follow-up, because it really, I hadn't really thought about Australian vets. I would wonder about the South Korean vets, the ROC as well, on how they were received in their own country. But when I was doing the research on prior to the American involvement in Vietnam, the one thing I found is that they erected a wall with the names of those who were killed, who were the French soldiers in the Indochina War. Wow. And it turns out it's one of the least visited monuments in France. And the French soldiers who came home were treated pretty much the way we were.
Really?
Yeah. And the thing with the French is many of them weren't French. They were the Foreign Legion. So a lot of them were Algerian and others of the colonies of France that were fighting for France, as opposed to, actual native Frenchmen. But I just found it ironic that there is a wall similar to the wall that we have in this country, except it's one of the least visited monuments in France.
Completely and utterly neglected. Huh.
Yep.
How interesting. And they were colonial soldiers in large measure fighting in Indochina.
Yep.
Larry Googans.
Yeah,
there's you, Larry.
There's the good Larry. There's
thank you, Larry.
Love you, man. Hey, there is a large contingency of Koreans that fought in the Vietnam War. I think they're in the Lancaster area. I might be not correct. That I'm in contact with. They are members of the Associates of Vietnam Veterans of America, because the VVA, Vietnam Veterans of America, is U.S. soldiers, and they're not. They do also have some Vietnam War veteran contingent, in South Korea, but I'm not familiar with that. Anyway, I can give you some contact information of some. They're U.S. citizens now, Korean veterans that fought in Vietnam War. I'd like to talk to you about that, because there is some issues. There's two contingencies of Korean veterans, and they're
but really, come on, dish. We want to hear it.
It's a who's in charge.
Okay.
And that's in Pennsylvania. Now we'll add, though, they still do stuff together, but they're a little bit anyway. So I'll talk to you about that more. When I find.
So the conflict that they have is nothing related to the war or anything like that. It's just a very personal Pennsylvania
amongst
thing.
themselves.
Okay, got it.
Amongst themselves.
Okay.
My chapter is better than your chapter.
Okay, got it.
Something like that. I don't know.
Right.
I will tell you that the Vietnam Veterans of America National Organization, just this week, I just returned from it, has given honorary membership to Korean Vietnam veterans. Honorary membership just means they don't have to pay dues. They also don't vote. They don't get to do anything. It's just an honorary position, because that's the best they could do. And they can join as the associates of the Vietnam Veterans of America. They just did that this week. Granted them honorary membership in the Vietnam Veterans of America. So, I mean, what I'm getting at, and I'll let it go, is, the Vietnam veterans, our Vietnam, we're welcoming them into the fold as best you can because of their situation. I don't have to tell you there's finances involved too. So.
Right. Well, Larry, I would love to connect with whatever contacts you have in the Korean community, because
I have. In fact, I just happen to have brought back all of their cards.
Great.
But I communicate with them regularly.
Thank you, Larry.
And we will meet with them in June at our state meeting. But I'll get with you sometime, not waste everybody else's time. if you decide you want to bring some of them on.
Okay.
There are some of them that can speak English very well. Most can't.
Okay.
But
Okay,
some-
that's good to know. Deborah Benura asks here, is this just in Pennsylvania or is it nationwide?
It's nationwide. The only one I'm know about is the chapters in Pennsylvania. But it
Okay.
is nationwide, and the one that was down at the national board meeting this week was from several different places, including Florida, Virginia, and several others. But the only one I know is the one in one of our associate chapters in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Okay. Larry, that's a good segue into something there's one announcement I'd like to make. I learned fairly recently about an organization called Our Community Salutes. And it's one of the best ideas, one of the best concepts I think I've heard in a while. I wrote about it a bit in the VBC bulletin that was sent out today. This is an organization that's dedicated to doing something pretty simple, and that is to hold celebratory events around the time of high school graduation season for those seniors who are graduating and going into the military. They make up a tiny proportion of our graduating population. I mean, less than 1% of the 17 million kids who will be graduating high school this year will have enlisted or are going to be taking the oath to enter the military. They tend to get overlooked by schools. They tend to get overlooked by parents who are, fawning over the kids who are going to the elite universities and things like that. And I think they deserve to be recognized. And so Our Community Salute sets up these wonderful ceremonies all around the country. You could go to their website, which is ourcommunitysalutes.org. You could find a community. And for those of you like me who live in Pittsburgh, you could find your community here in Pittsburgh. And we're having one of these dinners on May 12th. It is going to be at the Sheraton Station Square. It is a free dinner, fancy free dinner, and they really want veterans to show up. They really want veterans to register. So I'm going to be sending you, Larry, and Lee Corfield with VVA 862 information for this, inviting, hopefully Lee can pass it on to the members. I'll be sending it out also to VVI, Larry Woods, Vietnam Veterans Incorporated. Maybe they could come out too. You could see that this organization also has something called a thank you card, a digital thank you card that you could sign. That is kind of, they want to get 1 million signatures on the digital thank you card. I just think it's one of these great, creative, simple ideas that really should be honored, and people really should participate. Here is the thank you card. Again, you can go to ourcommunitysalutes.org. You can sign the virtual card for high school enlistees. And I think it's the least we could do for these young men and women who are joining the military. And I'm going to try to share the information about their various upcoming celebrations so that people can join wherever you are. Yes.
Get me the info, Todd. I'll share it with VVI.
Thank you so much, Larry. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And Larry covers VVA, which covers both of us anyway. So
yeah, right.
Todd, that was in your last newsletter. I registered this afternoon, so it's out there as of the last 2 days ago. Email from 2 days ago.
Great.
So it's out there.
Very
it was
good.
at the bottom, but it was out there.
It was out there. That's right. Yeah. I'm going to start flipping stuff. I'm going to put the news up top, I think, in our schedule at bottom, maybe something like that. Jim Jameson joined us late. Jim, I hate to tell you, James Rosone did not join us tonight, but we're going to have to reschedule him some other time. So we've been doing open conversation. Here's an opportunity for anyone who has an announcement they want to make, or a question they want to ask, or a statement they want to make, to speak up. I'm looking to see if we have any newcomers here with us. How are you, Ida Mae?
I'm doing well. How about you, Todd?
I'm doing very well. Is Dale off camera or is he out of the picture entirely?
He's out of the picture entirely. He's glued to his iPad. Who knows what's going on?
Okay. Well, tell him I said hi.
Recently, he's been watching old reruns of Combat. So
the old Vic Morrow show.
From the Dark Ages, yes.
Here's a question. Speaking of Dark Ages, Brian Ashbaugh said to me at West Point Graduate 1966, I saw him on Tuesday at our breakfast. He said, "Did you ever see the program West Point?" And I said, "No, I've never heard of a TV program, West Point." He said it was only.
I've certainly have heard that when I was a kid. It was a very interesting program.
Yeah.
It told me a lot about it. It was basically a program by the Army. They used it as a recruiting thing.
Yes,
the Navy did another one about Annapolis not too long afterwards, and I can still hear the music that the theme music that they went with it. It was a very interesting story about West Point cadets.
Yes, I'd never heard of it, and Brian said that's why. Like I saw the show, and I dedicated my whole life to going to West Point because of the show. That it had a huge impact. You're exactly right.
Yeah, Todd, I remember that show, and it was called West Point Cadets. And
West Point Cadets.
West Point Cadets. And I also do remember, like the other gentleman, the music. I mean, it's amazing what you remember from when you were 10.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast today.
George, you have quite the office behind you, I have to say.
I'm going to tell you something. This is a real mess, and I'll admit. I bought this house, when I didn't, Todd, that I'm a streetcar guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a lot of streetcar books, and I have a ton of streetcar photos and slides, but up here, a ton of railroad books, and there's also a whole shelf of World War II. And my wife confines me to this room. It's about 20 or 21 feet long, and it's 11 feet wide. And it was part of the extension built by the sociologist that lived here before me. He and his wife were liberal arts people. And, so that's my recommendation is, I should have done what all the model railroad people I know did. And that is you buy a house based on the room that you want your stuff. Right. But she liked the extension. It had a lot of skylights and that sort of thing. And my wife came from Montana and she likes sunshine. So this, it's quite the office. It's a real mess. And every time I sit down and say I'm going to start, labeling slides again, then something else comes up.
Something else comes up. Yeah. Something else comes up.
There it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. There it is. So there is, the complete TV series, West Point Story. I'll be interested to watch a few episodes. Brian said he distinctly remembers like pretty big names early on in their careers appearing, making cameos like Barbara Eden and, Clint Eastwood and Robert Duvall and stuff like that. So that's neat. George, thank you for joining us. Sorry that James Rosone.
I've been here, but I've been hiding because of the condition of the room.
We don't judge here. We don't judge.
You can laugh. It's okay.
Yeah, that's right. This is believe me, I've been kind of sent up. Yeah, I have my own space. It's just the same way. I could do what I want up here and throw books around and stack them up and all that stuff. Right. And nobody cares.
Trip over everything. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Oh, this is great. Anybody else here who has something they want to add? Something they want to share? Carol Popchalk, very good to see you with us. Thank you for joining us, Carol. Steve Swan, I'm not sure that you've ever joined us before. If you want to unmute yourself and say hi, please do feel free to say hello. We're a friendly group. We keep our Marines under control. And so we're welcoming, a welcoming group. Rick Erisman, we should have more of these open conversation Zooms. I think I agree. This is fun. This is neat. Yeah, Chris Perolo.
Okay, sorry to be a little more somber here, but if you give me 3 minutes, I wanted to mention I'd seen a current events. I saw a program, 20-minute program on the history of Crimea and Ukraine and the other landmass there. And it was very eye-opening to what's happening right now. Now, what they did was cover the history of all this territory going back to 1200 AD. And they talked about the Khan Empire, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, and all the descendants, and how they ruled out of the Crimea, and how there was constant warring for empire and resources. There would be large times of peace and large times of war. Ukraine figured in that, highly figured in that, but there was a group of people to the north called the Rus, R-U-S, with their capital in Moscow. And they figured into this mix in the 1300s. And there was a yin and yang and pulling and pushing and different dynasties and different warring factions here, until the Ottoman Empire sort of, in the 1700s or so, sort of quelled that, took control of that area. And then the Tsars came along and they established their piece of it. And then World War I and the revolution. People now are making the mistake, according to the program, they're making the mistake that what's happening now is based on the 20th century. It's based on events of the 20th century. It is not. What Putin is thinking and what is happening here, its roots go back hundreds of years, and the tactics being used now, which we are appalled by in the 21st century, these tactics are right out of the playbooks of 500 and 400 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so when we try and figure out what's he thinking or how can he do this, we're thinking that something's wrong with him. No, he is actually studying his history, the history of warfare in this area, and the prizes that are to be gained by incorporating the Ukraine, the Crimea, Odessa, and much more of that territory into the Russian Empire. So we're making a mistake thinking he wants to restore the Soviet bloc. He more than likely wants to restore the pre-Tsarist bloc, and that would satisfy all his requirements here. And what bothers me is, are they understanding this in the State Department and in the Defense Department when they try and figure out what's happening or what to do next? Because I see some parallels to Vietnam in that he has committed forces, he has shed blood and treasure, and how on earth does anybody expect him to walk back out of there, just like Lyndon Johnson or the rest of them were thinking back in those days there. This is not going to end well no matter what. But that's where this cruelty and this barbarism is coming from those playbooks of that warfare. And we talked about it 2 weeks ago about rushing through the plains of Germany in swarms and some of the tactics there, how they routed the Germans once they got the momentum. And this is the same thing. They're using a centuries-old playbook to conquer the Ukraine, and I fear that we're not sure how to respond to that.
Chris, what was that program? And
well, that's the problem. When I see some of these programs late at night, I fail to take notes here. But I can tell you that I trust the source as an historical. It was not somebody with a special interest. It was coming from an historical group.
Was it on cable or public television?
No, it was something on the Facebook.
On the what?
On the Facebook. It was something off the Facebook.
Oh.
But the sources were credible, and the sequence of events and the chronology were very telling. But it explains a lot about the cruelty and the tactics that are being used right now. And like I said, I'm not so sure we understand it as much as as well as we should or have to.
Yeah, I would have, just as a historian, and I know Greg Yost will probably be saying the same things, and I think he knows this history much better than I do. I certainly do think that the roots of this conflict go back hundreds of years, like you said, And I love that term playbook. There is one Russian playbook. It begins with Ivan the Terrible, and it has continued through Joseph Stalin and Vladimir Putin. It is remarkable. I think the remarkable thing to me is I thought in the 21st century, the playbook might be thrown out. Why am I so naive that I think that? But I thought it might be put aside, thrown out. But it's so clear that he is playing from that very, very old playbook, and the cruelty and the ambition and all that stuff. Greg Yost, why don't you?
No, I concur completely. I had thrown into the chat an organization called the Kennan Institute, named after U.S. diplomat George Kennan. If anyone in their spare time wants to do some Google searching, they've always had programs about U.S.-Russian relations, but they've had zillions, and they're all taped and everything like that. You can look these up. One of the things in terms of the best way to see that Vladimir Putin really wants to recreate the old Russian Empire, not the Soviet Empire, is that he surrounds himself with icons of the Russian Orthodox Church, which of course was completely banned during the Soviet era. But you see Putin all the time going to these famous Russian churches and renovating them and reconstructing them. And he always has these pictures of him in his office surrounded by icons. So he's clearly thinking Russian Empire, not Soviet Empire. And that's very true. That seems to be where he's going there. One other thing about talking not ending well is that if you think about it, really most Soviet and recent Russian leaders have actually sort of either died in office or gone on vacation and told not to come back. And there's a general consensus that cannot work with Putin. He's either going to have to die in office or be killed in office.
Yeah.
I think, and Todd, I think if you go back even farther before the maps, though, because I'm of Ukrainian descent. My grandfather's passport in about 1921 said he came through France as a Ukrainian freedom fighter. He was no longer wanted there. But if you go back farther, and I think you're talking the 1600s, Poland was very big. There was a Poland-Lithuanian Commonwealth that took over a large part, at least of northern Ukraine, or the civilized part, and all the Cossack ancestors and the Tartars were down in the Crimea. Right. And there was a big war between those two factions that very much weakened Poland. And then along came Sweden to see if they could, pick apart what was left. And the Poles spent just about every other asset they had beating off Sweden. And this is when nobody paid attention to Russian expansion and Russia growing as powerful as it was. So even farther back, it wasn't czarist.
George, how great. Whoever talks about the Kingdom of Poland and Lithuania, absolutely, Greg, look it up. They were a great power. We don't think about Poland as a great power, but with Lithuania, they certainly were. And we don't think about Sweden as a great power, but it absolutely was. And I think controlled parts of Russia. I think we have another program topic here that we've just opened up. I think it would be great to get some real experts on this subject who could explain some of this history to us, the pre-20th century history. I think that would be terrific. Let me work on that. Hey, thank you all this evening for, making we have a hand up here? No. Do we have a hand up?
Nah. That was the good Larry, because I forgot to put it down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, disregard. But I just want to say, Chris, thank you. These programs, I hated history. I love it now. They're on late at night, and I think Chris said that, like at 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I think one that I saw that just was what he was talking about was on National Geographic or something like that. Huh. And they're getting into this. I know it's getting late. I'll tell you what, I don't know why, Todd, we don't talk about history and how it repeats itself. I know I'm preaching to the choir. Thank God there's people like you. And I mean that because, you're right. This is not new. Yeah. And I'm listening to, I'm a dumb pilot. I look at that and goes, holy shit. That is so obvious. but it's not on the news.
But it's not in the news.
Not on the news. Anyway.
Larry, I'm a historian. I did not expect that history would repeat itself the way it has. I mean, it is echoed with a clarity that you rarely see. Greg Yost.
I just want to end, maybe this is a good place to end it on sort of a humorous note. Russia has always been a very difficult place to live, even before the Soviet era. The climate, it's just a very tough. So they developed a very wry sense of humor. And there's an old Russian joke. In Russia, what's the difference between an optimist and a pessimist? Well, the Russian pessimist says, things are so bad, they can't possibly get any worse. And the optimist says, yes, they can.
a good note to end on, Greg. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for making this program a success. It was a busted play that ended up going for a touchdown. Thank you very much. All
it was
right.
so great to see you all again. I've missed all of
Mary,
you.
good to see you. Take care, everyone. All right. Good night. Have a good evening.
Night.